Here are today's headlines.
Special Assistant to the President Christopher Bongo insists frigate controversy is a product of fake news.
President Duterte remains committed to peace efforts despite the suspension of peace talks with communist rebels. Interpol launches a manhunt for the killers of OFW Joanna Daniela de Mafelis. And skier Asa Miller finishes in the top 70 at the Winter Olympics, while skater Michael Martinez bows out. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom.
Maat pa, malay ko at pakialam ko.
Special Assistant to the President, Christopher Bongo, maintained his innocence and claimed he is merely the victim of fake news. At the Senate Committee on Defense and Security hearing on Monday, Go dared resource persons to show proof that he intervened in the controversial frigate acquisition program of the Philippine Navy. Go explained that the controversy started when the social media company Rappler and broadsheet Philippine Daily Inquirer published an article alleging that he influenced the Navy to acquire combat management systems from another supplier. The Special Assistant to the President even wagered that he would resign his post if anyone can actually produce a single piece of evidence to prove his alleged meddling into the FAP. In a related development, thousands of supporters flocked to the Senate as a show of support to SAP Bongo. Members of the Sincere Warriors of Rodrigo Duterte advocating federalism and president support movement came in full force to affirm their support for both the president and SAP Bongo. The group said, despite the allegations against the Secretary Go, he has nothing to hide and only the truth to tell. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Abs Abando.
The Philippine Air Force is again looking for possible suppliers to fill in its utility helicopter requirements. This follows the cancellation of the Bell 412 EPI contract from the Bell Helicopter and Canadian Commercial Corporation. The Department of National Defense earlier issued a notice to CCC terminating the contract for the supply and delivery of 16 units of Bell 412 combat utility helicopters for the Philippine Air Force. The move comes after the Canadian government ordered the review of the 12 billion peso deal after receiving reports that the Philippines is planning to use the helicopters against rebel forces. Public Affairs Office Chief Arsenio Andulong said that while the combat utility helicopters being purchased are primarily for transporting personnel and supplies, the department believes that it does not owe the Canadian government any justification. Andulong emphasized that the DND will continue to pursue its modernization program and will look into procuring the combat utility helicopters from other countries. The number of repatriates from Kuwait has reached 1,500, including about 130 who arrived in Manila last Saturday, with more to follow in the coming days. The Department of Foreign Affairs said majority of these are household service workers who were granted amnesty by the Kuwaiti government. The most recent batch is among the 10,000 overstaying OFWs that the DFA Office of Migrant Workers Affairs and the Embassy are working to repatriate. The DFA and the Embassy are negotiating with the Kuwaiti government to extend the amnesty program for 3 months. The program will allow OFWs who overstayed their work visas to leave the Gulf state without any fines or penalties. The program will also allow OFWs without proper work documents to process the necessary papers that will allow them to work legally in Kuwait. Most of the undocumented OFWs in Kuwait are reportedly victims of illegal recruitment. The Interpol has launched a manhunt for the prime suspects in the death of a Filipina migrant worker in Kuwait whose remains arrived in her hometown in Iloilo on Saturday. Overseas Workers Welfare Administration Chief Hans Leo Kakda accompanied the body of Joanna Daniela de Mafelis back to her hometown in Iloilo. De Mafelis' body was found inside a freezer in the Al-Sha'ab district of Kuwait on February 9, a year after she had gone missing. Kakdak said that criminal charges will be filed under Kuwaiti law against Demafelis' employers, a Lebanese man and a Syrian wife. Both suspects have already left Kuwait. Aside from her immediate family, Demafelis' relatives and residents of Barangay Ferraris traveled to the airport in Cabatuan town to meet and collect the OFW's remains. Kakdak gave assurance that the government will provide the necessary support to the Demafelis family. The government will begin the disbursement of subsidies to soften the impact of higher prices brought about by the train law. Here is our report.
Beneficiaries of the government's conditional cash transfer program receiving subsidies through automated teller machines will get additional funds starting this February to alleviate the impact of higher prices of some commodities due to tax reform. Finance Undersecretary Carl Chu was said beneficiaries of the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program would get their top-up starting March, while the additional beneficiaries who belong to the lower 50% bracket of society would get theirs starting July. He said some 7.2 million beneficiaries of the subsidy would get their funds in the first quarter this year. The remaining 2.8 million households who are still being registered with the Department of Social Welfare and Development will get theirs in July. But Chu was said the amount to be disbursed by then would be equivalent to the full-year budget augmentation amounting to 2,400 pesos. Some of them have been given land bank accounts, while others get them through private conduits such as cooperatives and rural banks. The first package of the train law cuts workers' income tax rates and a tax-free rate given to a worker's first 250,000 peso annual income. Under the train, excise taxes on fuel products and sugar-sweetened beverages, among others, have been raised to counter the impact of the tax cut on government revenues. Under train's first package, about 40% of the proceeds from higher excise taxes will be used for social mitigating measures such as targeted cash transfers to poor families, subsidies to drivers and operators of public utility vehicles, and electricity consumers in small power utilities group areas or those that are not connected to the main power grids. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Still to come, President Duterte remains committed to peace efforts despite the suspension of peace talks with communist rebels. These and more when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Ito ang Duterte on Duty. Ulat sa ginagawa ng Presidente.
February 9, Biyernes, Davao City. Nakiusap si Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte sa mga bansa sa Middle East na tratuhin ng may dignidad ang mga Pilipinong nagtatrabaho roon. Kaugnay ito na napaulat na pang-aabuso sa ilang overseas Filipino workers sa Kuwait.
The Filipino is no slave to anyone, anywhere and everywhere. Every unlawful physical injury that is inflicted on an OFW is an injury I personally bear as the head of this republic. Every abuse committed against an OFW is an affront against us as a sovereign nation. I ask that our overseas Filipino workers is that their dignity is honored and the rights of human beings upheld and respected.
May payag din ang Pangulo sa issue sa Philippine rice.
The Philippine rice, or the Benham rice, is ours. Benham rice, but the Philippine rice belongs to the Philippines. We will claim exclusive ownership of the economic zones.
Marco Polo Hotel, Davao City. Sinaksihan ng Pangulo ang paggagawad ng The Manila Times Man of the Year Award sa mga sundalong nagtaya ng buhay para mapalaya sa mga terorista ng Marawi. February 12, Lunes, Vicente Soto Memorial Medical Center, Cebu City. Ang tunay na malasakit ng Pangulo sa mga may sakit natupad na sa pamamagitan ng Malasakit Center. Isa itong one-stop shop na mabilisang assistance ng DSWD, PhilHealth, PCSO at PAGCOR para sa mga kababayan nating kapuspalan. 50 milyong pisong financial assistance ang inilaan para sa upgrade ng mga equipment sa VSMMC. PNP Police Regional Office 7, Cebu City. Sinaksihan ng Pangulo ang pagbibigay ng 20 units ng vehicle patrol mula sa Japanese government na inilalaan sa 3 police offices sa Cebu. Pinarangalan ni Pangulong Duterte ng Order of Lapu-Lapu Rank of Kalasag si PO2 Aristeo Tampos na nasugatan sa isang buy-bust operation sa Cebu City. Anuman ng partido, tinitiyak ng Pangulo sa mga local chief executive mula Visayas at Mindanao na suportado niya ang mga ito.
Dito, nabi ko kay Jokno, talagang lahat mabigyan. Wala akong kontrapartido. Lahat kayo nabibigyan.
February 13, Martes, Malacanang. Nakipagpulong si Pangulong Duterte kay U.S. Ambassador to the Philippines Sung Kim kasama ang ilang miyembro ng gabinete. Sa panunumpa na mahigit 100 bagong talagang government officials sa Rizal Hall sa Malacanang, sinabi ng Pangulo na hindi siya natatakot sa mga reklamong isinampa sa kanya sa International Criminal Court.
Do not worry about me. I can face the ICC. If they want to indict me and convict me, fine. I will gladly do it for my country.
Pinarangalan naman ni Pangulong Duterte ng Order of Lapu-Lapu Rank of Kampilan si Private First Class Romero Esperida Jr., isa sa pinakamalubang nasugatan sa bakbakan sa Marawi. Pinarangalan naman ng Order of Lapu-Lapu Rank of Kamagi si Dr. Fabio Enrique Posas, ang doktor na nagligtas sa buhay ni Private First Class Esperida. Ninoy Aquino International Airport. Sinalubong ng Pangulo ang mahigit 100 repatriated OFWs mula sa Kuwait at may iniwang pangako sa mga ito.
We are here to see to it that every Filipino is treated decent. I love you as a Filipino. Mahal ko kayo.
Ito ang Duterte on Duty. Abangan sa susunod na linggo ang mga gagawin ng Pangulo.
President Rodrigo Duterte renewed his commitment to achieve peace in the country despite the government's ongoing campaign against communist rebels. Here is our report.
President Rodrigo Duterte assured Norway that the Philippines remains committed to peace despite his refusal to resume peace talks with the communist rebels. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque made this statement after the president met with Idun Tvedt, Norwegian special envoy to the peace process between the government and the National Democratic Front of the Philippines, or NDFP. Roque said the president welcomed Norway's expression of commitment and emphasized that the goal of peace must be achieved with due regard for the national interest of the Philippines. Tvedt reiterated the Norwegian government's commitment to assist the Philippines in establishing peace with communist rebels during his courtesy call to the presidential guest house in Davao City. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Rom Dulfo.
The Department of National Defense, or DND, criticized Human Rights Watches for its assessment that President Rodrigo Duterte's offer to give rewards for every communist rebel killed encourages war crimes. Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana said eliminating rebels and terrorists is a legitimate law enforcement function and that the government is not precluded from offering rewards. Lorenzana emphasized that the military is mandated to follow human rights and international humanitarian law when they operate in the field. The defense chief also said the HRW has always been unreasonably critical and biased against the military and police, but silent with the atrocities of the communist rebels. Lorenzana said The president's pronouncement that he will pay 20,000 pesos for every communist rebel killed came after the killings of Lumads and the Communist Party of the Philippines founder Jose Maria Sison's directive to kill one soldier or policeman per region a day. He urged the HRW to acknowledge and investigate the action of the NPA, including the murder of civilians and the recruitment of indigenous people. ASEAN member countries were urged to improve infrastructures and streamline regulatory processes to facilitate trade and investments in the region. The Philippine Institute for Development Studies highlighted in a report that connectivity is important to the region's continued economic growth and an integral factor to realize the vision of an ASEAN community by 2025. The PIDS said making it easier to transport goods and services, reducing cumbersome processes, or opening more ways for people to move around the region would help facilitate the growth of ASEAN small and medium enterprises. SMEs comprise 90% of companies in the region and contribute as much as 60% of the region's gross domestic product. The PIDS report noted that an interconnected ASEAN is also envisioned to promote knowledge sharing and cultural exchange, which should result in positive impacts on the region's SMEs, along with tourism and human resources, among others. A fire broke out in Bagong Buhay, Pardeco, Barangay Bangkao, Puerto Princesa City, Palawan, burning over 50 homes to the ground. The fire, which started around 1 p.m. and ignited houses made of light materials, was put out by the City Fire Department firefighters at around 2:30 p.m. Bangkao Barangay Councilor Luis Cuadrante suspected that the fire started due to a defective gas tank. Bangkao Chairwoman Marilu Gumangan meanwhile said that affected families would temporarily be sheltered at the Barangay Hall and at the Mauricio Reynoso Memorial Elementary School. Davao Oriental is set to implement several projects aimed to boost the local abaca industry while involving indigenous communities as its beneficiaries. Here is our report.
The provincial government of Davao Oriental, which has set ambitious targets to increase and improve the province's abaca production, is now complementing efforts with the Philippine Fiber Industry Development Authority for programs set to give the local industry a boost. PhilFIDA Region 11 Director Eduardo Holoyohoy said the agency has already allocated a budget intended for 450 hectares of abaca plantation for this year, with the provincial government to provide counterpart funds. Improvement of the abaca fiber is one of the programs the agency is focusing on. Holoyohoy said he has already met with abaca traders early in January and has come up with a memorandum of agreement banning the buying of abaca fibers based on its quality sorted to different grades. PhilFIDA also partnered with the Department of Trade and Industry to supplement their existing post-harvest facilities. Various programs, including abaca seed production, abaca expansion and rehabilitation, and livelihood training support, were also laid out through the funding earmarked under the Payapa at Masaganang Pamayanan program of the Office of the Presidential Advisor on the Peace Process. The Provincial Governor's Office is bent at reviving and boosting the province's sleeping industry as it holds a promising economic benefit, especially for the upland communities where the Mandaya indigenous people's ancestral domains are located. Governor Nelson Dayang Hirang, who has set new policies by prioritizing the province's ancestral domains where most of the province's poor lives, says that boosting the abaca industry in the province would mean huge benefits for the IP communities. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Up next, no Filipino casualties are reported in a 7.2 magnitude earthquake that hit Mexico. Skier Asa Miller finishes in the top 70 at the Winter Olympics, while skater Michael Martinez bows out. These and more when the PNA Newsroom returns.
This is PTV Network, covering the Philippines.
4 years, PTV has gone through changes. Pioneering programming and news gathering.
Business Talks is the only show on Philippine television that dares discuss business.
Hello there, fellow teachers, and welcome to the last of the series of episodes on physical science.
Happy Centennial!
Happy Centennial, Toby! At sa lahat po ng ating mga kababayan, maligayang centenaryo, araw po ng ating kaarawan.
Groundbreaking achievements in television. While keeping up with the technological advancements. Our successes in the past has made history in the name of serving the people and the nation. Today, PTV is ushering in a new digital era.
From that historic day in October 2016, our office and the Japan Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications entered into an official memorandum of cooperation to implement digital television broadcasting for the government television network.
We will do our part and make you proud as we spearhead our country's transition from analog to digital television broadcast. I'm confident that we will be able to accomplish the task at hand.
PTV will always make waves. We have set ourselves up for the future, for the people, and for the nation. This is PTV, para sa bayan.
Malacanang said the ombudsman has the power to open the bank accounts of President Rodrigo Duterte even without the permission of the Anti-Money Laundering Council, or AMLAC. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque made his remark following the claims of Senator Antonio Trillanes that the ombudsman junked the investigation into Duterte's alleged ill-gotten wealth because of the AMLAC refused to cooperate. He pointed out that during the impeachment of late Supreme Court Chief Justice Renato Corona in 2011, it was the ombudsman itself who opened the Corona's bank accounts. Roque, meanwhile, urged Trillanes anew to stop reviving the said issue since it had been dead a long time ago. The palace was, however, disappointed that the ombudsman did not immediately disclose that it had jumped the probe into Duterte's alleged ill-gotten wealth as early as November 29 last year for lack of evidence. No Filipino was reported hurt following a 7.2 magnitude earthquake that struck Mexico in the state of Oaxaca, according to the Embassy of the Philippines in Mexico. In a report to the Department of Foreign Affairs on Saturday, the Embassy of the Philippines in Mexico said the tremor, with the epicenter located around 600 kilometers from Mexico City, happened around 7:30 a.m. Saturday, Philippine time. The shaking lasted for up to a minute, with several aftershocks recorded and felt in some cases. The February 17 quake was not as violent as the tremor that struck the city on September 19 last year and caused over 300 fatalities. The Philippine Embassy assured the public that it will continuously monitor the situation and check on the Filipino community to confirm their status and safety. Phil-Am skier Asa Miller finished with an improved run but without a medal in the men's giant slalom alpine skiing competition of the Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang, South Korea. During his rerun, Miller finished the course in 1 minute 22.43 seconds, way faster than his 1 and 27.52 time in the first run. Miller, who was making his Olympic debut, finished 70th overall out of 108 competitors. Europeans dominated the event, with Marcel Hirscher of Austria taking the gold, Henrik Kristoffersen of Norway taking the silver, and Alexis Pinterol of France with the bronze. Miller will return on Thursday for the men's slalom event. Meanwhile, Michael Martinez put up a good fight in the men's skating short program event but failed to enter the second round. Martinez, who had a flawless performance last Friday, finished 28th out of 30 skaters with 55.56 points. However, with only 24 skaters entering the next phase, Martinez, who captured a silver medal in the Southeast Asian Games last year, would not advance to the next round. The Department of Tourism in the Cordillera Autonomous Region, or CAR, is pushing for a creative economy in the Cordilleras. The concept is to boost the economy and the people's livelihood through activities related to the arts. Here is our report.
The Cordillera region is rich in culture and art, ranging from native handicrafts and dances to modern artworks by homegrown local artists. The Department of Tourism now hopes to promote Baguio and the Cordilleras through its so-called creative economy. DOT-CAR Chief Tourism Officer Jovi Ganongan said they will develop activities that will make tourists appreciate the creative talent and skills of the region's people. Ganongan said Baguio is recognized as a melting pot of cultures. Most of the city's residents are now from the other provinces of the Cordillera. Baguio has now become the center of business and commerce as well as education in the entire northern Luzon. UNESCO tagged Baguio City along with 64 other cities in 44 countries as a creative city, making it part of the UNESCO Creative Cities Network for its distinguished crafts and folk arts. Ganongan said the designation is not an award but a recognition for the city's inherent creativity. The same creative talent is innate in the people in the region's other provinces as well, such as wood carving, loom and hand weaving, metal crafts, basketry, and other creative arts, on top of stone and rock terracing. Ganongan explained that out of 7 categories for UNESCO's creative cities, Baguio's designation falls under crafts and folk arts. This can be seen in the region's products, which are purely inspired by the local's culture and environment. The DOT official said Baguio's Creative Cities title can be promoted elsewhere in the region, on which the department intends to focus and boost the locals' livelihood. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Ab Sabando.
Let's now check out the weather forecast for Metro Manila and the rest of the country. Let's take another look at today's headlines.
Special Assistant to the President Christopher Bongo insists frigate controversy is a product of fake news.
President Duterte remains committed to peace efforts despite the suspension of peace talks with communist rebels. Interpol launches a manhunt for the killers of OFW Joanna Daniela de Mafelis. Skier Asa Miller finishes in the top 70 at the Winter Olympics, while skater Michael Martinez bows out. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check out these and other stories, visit the PNA website or follow the Philippine News Agency on Facebook and Twitter. For more stories about the government and all that it is doing for the Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. And before we go, let's start the week off with this thought. No matter whether you win or lose, you still have to try. And that's your daily dose of the hottest news and the latest information that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. I'm William Theo. Good day.